Welcome, everybody, to the Question episode 68 recap. I'm very excited to welcome my friend TJ here to talk a little bit about design systems as AI context. TJ, we just finished the deep dive, and we had over 100 people on our Zoom call and in our FigJam file jumping around. It was wild. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lively conversation.
Yes, and we're toying with the idea of how to kind of keep it going, because I think there's so much we just barely scratched the surface in that hour. So I appreciate you. There's something I've always appreciated about you. You're sort of like, I saw it today when we were in the deep dive, TJ. You kind of come with all this knowledge and expertise, but you come with such like openness, and like you're just a curious guy. I can see that. That's really true to kind of what I want this community to be, is like embracing that curiosity. So I just want to say thanks for coming with such, like, that was just like on your sleeves. Like, I mean, I really appreciated that perspective you brought. So thanks. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think I feel like you can attest to this too. It's like, I feel like we all got to the place that we're at through the people who did this before us. I
Right.
think like open source technology has always been something that's been something that we've always adopted, and I feel like helped build the majority of us who are in these fields today. And now it's easy to take the work that you do for granted, because like when you're in your own little bubble and you're working and you're doing your things, and it's like, who's going to find value in any of this stuff? But then as soon as you start putting this stuff out there and you get validation on that stuff that you're putting out, it feels like, all right, now the tables have turned. It is my obligation to start giving back now. And I think that's part of the reason why I've just kind of doubled down on like just exposing all these internal tools that we do and
Yeah.
services, and hopefully other people can find value out of it, and maybe you'll keep passing that on.
Yeah, they definitely are. People were very excited to have you here. And so, again, thanks for the time. We asked 3 questions. I'll read those in a moment, but I also just wanted to say, as we kind of open up this chat, that there's a lot going on in the space right now. Folks are feeling all the feels around AI, and it is, in some ways, it's a loaded, conversation. There's a lot of emotion here. There are people who are literally afraid for their jobs. There are people who are ethically concerned with energy and all the things that, the loss of intellectual property and all. There's so much wound up in this topic, right? In just those 2 words, or those 2 letters, AI. And so as we kind of, you and I, TJ, come into this, I just want to say, like, if you're listening, we're trying to approach this conversation with a lot of sensitivity to that variety of emotion that folks bring to this topic. The reality is there's a lot for us to learn here, a lot for us to unpack. And so we're trying to stay curious. We're trying to just really dig in together. And that's kind of our goal. So thanks for coming with that attitude, TJ, and appreciate everybody who's listening in with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we asked 3 questions. And the first one was, how prepared is your design system to act as reliable AI context today? The second was, have you experimented with having AI generate UI based on your design? And the third was, if yes, how do you feel about the output of your AI? And if no, what's keeping you from trying this? We actually sent this out to, 1,031 design system practitioners. We got 148 responses this week, which is a record number for us. And if you are a data nerd and you want to go look at the data yourself, you can always click this link or find it wherever you're listening to this to go see the raw data yourself. So you can look at all the anonymized answers that folks submitted this week. We did our own little diagnoses. And the first question, it's funny because, like overall, it's kind of like folks are sort of in the middle. It's kind of what this says to me in terms of their preparedness. But you said something very early in the deep dive, TJ, which was that this question is actually not getting at the reality of their preparedness. It's getting at their perception of their system's preparedness. Can you just like unpack that for us?
Yeah, no, I think perception is the right word. I think in traditional design systems, there's the perception that if everything looks like it's like from a static point of view, everything looks like it's the way it's supposed to look, and even from in a maybe a sub level under that, like metadata is in its right spot, and there's states and variants and various properties all put together that it is in a state for developer handoff. And without the use of AI tools, it it may just go completely unnoticed. A developer may inherit it. The developer may be using the dev mode within Figma, and then might find little discrepancies like detached components and some hard coded token values and things like that, and then just be like whatever about it, and then just go about their day, realign, remap those tokens to make sure that the code part is in a good spot, and then eventually that ends up getting shipped to production. Now let's time this by 70. So let's think about death by 1,000 cuts. So like all these little cracks eventually start to show, and then this is what is the drift. This is what causes the drift, because eventually there's going to be something that surfaces on the development side from the design side that a decision is going to be made by someone who isn't the person who's responsible to make that decision, and then lo and behold, you have like a different color focus state on a button that's being used throughout the entire platform. Uh, what why I say that I think some of these in the bar chart might be slightly skewed or overestimated was because it's a lot of the underlying infrastructure, the unsexy stuff that goes unnoticed, that is noticed by AI. So
Yeah.
when we say things are AI ready, a lot of times when we run these AI diagnostics, and you can even do this with like just the standard official Figma MCP, and just ask it to like give me the component structure of a card component.
Yeah.
And then it can tell you whether or not it's finding a nested component button or whether that button is a brand new button that has been detached and is a part of that. Because what would happen is if you ask it to just start developing it, it's going to end up developing a brand new button instead of importing the original the button that you already have within that
Yeah.
code base. We learned that the hard way in the
Yeah.
beginning of our explorations. This was the stuff that we were like scratching our heads going, well, wait a minute. So like, is AI not ready for this? Is this the things that like maybe, people were talking about AI hallucinating, and then as we kind of pulled that thread and like worked our way back, backtrack to like where is this AI getting this information from? Lo and behold, this is a specific instance where we're working with a banner that was a icon button. And then sure enough, that icon button was detached. And then we had a fresh new icon button in our code base that didn't belong there. So I think these things a lot of times without any sort of linting or diagnostics that are happening at the Figma level, then yeah, like your output's only as good as your input. So if it's absorbing crap, then it's gonna
Yeah.
spit out crap. But I think and then if you flip that on its head and say like if you're absorbing pure context and that context is in place, and then we have these tools in place in order for you to run those AI diagnostics before you allow AI to start making that transition into a code base, then you can feel confident about what you've done on the design side, and then you can also allow AI to help support you in those things that it finds to help you, because like not only will it recognize how AI ready are you, it can also assist you in making it more AI ready. So anyway, yeah, I
Yeah.
think a lot of the people who haven't really dabbled too far into the AI part, who feel as though it might be AI ready, might want to do a little bit more of a under the hood deep checking
Yeah.
to see whether or not it's actually there. And some of those threes and fours might end up as ones or twos.
Probably. Yeah. It's so good. So if I was trying to summarize that, TJ, I would say the hallucination or the slop that you see is a signal that perhaps there is more clarity or structure needed in the system in order for AI to generate something valuable. Is that an accurate
That's
summary?
yeah. You just
Yeah.
yeah. I wish I can talk that succinctly, but that's exactly what it is. Like,
No, that's
uh,
great.
I have sometimes I'll over explain things too much, but that's exactly it. It's like if we refer to it as context, like that's the context. All of those facets that are
Yeah.
happening, all of those pieces that are happening within whatever your canonical source of truth is, whether
Yeah.
it's like a UX contract or whether it's Figma, whether it's Penpot, wherever you're getting that information from, as long as that proper context is intact, then the AI should be able to effectively do its job.
Yeah. Okay. So we didn't talk about this in the deep dive, but you've just got me thinking. So, um, most people don't know this, but when I was in college, so I'm about to turn 50, so this is a while ago. But when I was in college, I studied computer science, and I actually had to choose a specialization, and I chose AI. So this is a
No
long time
way. You're
ago.
ahead of the
Yeah,
game.
well, yeah, a long time ago. But a lot of the things that I was learning about years and years ago are things that you see now, much more refined, and the scale is unbelievable, of course. Um, but what's interesting about this to me is that a lot of the courses I had to take were like physiological psychology. Like we were studying the structure of the brain because the whole goal with the code was to recreate what humans can do. And so the way you set this up, which is like, it's possible that as a human, it's enough for you to just design some things that look right in Figma, pass that to an engineer, they can sort of infer the intent because they're another human and make good choices. So, and now when we do that same flow, but instead we ask AI to do some of the generation, we're seeing errors that come into play, right? Because the clarity of the context is not defined. But humans can somehow work through that to a limited extent. So do you think that there's a future where it's not necessary to have all of the infrastructure, all of the clarity, where the AI can essentially infer the intent? Is that something you see?
uh, y- yes, but I don't know if we want that.
Mm,
So like there's a there's a part where like humans need, this is like opinion
yeah.
on AI, maybe not necessarily with the focus on design systems, because I feel
Mhm.
this way about much of AI supportive technologies. Um, there needs to be human involvement along the way in order to produce original thought. And as long as AI is doing the job for you, it's not going to produce slop, but it's going to produce things based on patterns that it recognized. And then patterns are things that it has learned because they've already been done before.
Yeah.
So it just makes more sense to like insert a human in the mix,
Yeah.
at least to just be aware. So if you are, I mean, I understand like in the context of design systems or like or digital teams, humans there's resource issues where they may not be available to be able to be a part of every step of the way where AI is involved to monitor it. But when there's big decisions that are being made, I would not recommend AI just handing that off or handing that off to AI.
Sure.
Like it just AI can infer purpose and intent, I'm sure, because it understands through just general knowledge like what a certain component usually does based
Hmm.
upon best practices or based upon like majority usage.
Yeah.
But what if you want to do something different?
Right.
Like what if there's something unique that you want to do that hasn't been thought of before? Like I feel like even if it's just oversight, a human needs to be there,
Yeah.
but more so, let's think about new things. Let's like try to like I don't know, figure out a new way to build a switch
Yeah.
or like something different besides tabbed interfaces.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's a really smart way to think about all of this. And the we talked a little bit about this, where I think one of the sort of general concepts that we kind of landed on in the deep dive was it's nice, it's better that the results, the output will be better if we have human and AI interacting throughout the process instead of just one part is human, one part is AI, you know? And so I think that's sort of an echo maybe of what I hear you saying now. And I think that resonates. So,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And just to add on top of that, the catastrophic things that can happen that lead to the discussions around AI not working or AI being ineffective or AI slop
mhm.
usually happens when the AI is starting to do something that you're not aware that it's doing. And then you're continuously building on top of the thing that it produced that you were unaware of. And then that's
Yeah.
when the slop compounds.
Yes.
That's when it's like, it's the trough of cement and or whatever you want, manure. And you're just like bucketing more on top of it because you'll end up with this unwieldy product that no one knows about. Like
Yeah.
no one, whether you're coming from the design side and you just design this giant dashboard of product inventory things and you're like, I don't know, but it looks cool. I don't know if any of this would be useful. But then the same side on the development, if you just keep that's why I like to use the term context engineering, because context engineering indicates that the person who's responsible for wielding that AI has some sort of insight into what the AI
Yeah.
is doing. And I don't like to use the code, although I am a fan of vibe coding, because I think it's a great way to express creativity through people who never had the means to be able to do those things.
Yeah.
But I think vibe coding, and there was one of the commenters who would also agree with me from the session. But I don't know if vibe coding has any place in like a design system. I think it's great
Mm.
for prototyping thing, but I think practitioners of their craft are the people who should be responsible for what goes out there, so that way you don't end up with a compounding slop.
Yeah. That's so interesting, and it connects to a topic that we didn't get a chance to talk about in the deep dive, which is the idea of evals in AI, and they're used at many layers in the process, right? Like in the early training days of a model, there's a lot of evals that are run to sort of like help a model know, is it choosing the right things, as it's sort of like learning, essentially, is really what it's doing. But also in implementations of AI inside of an organization, right? We can't just like put it into practice and trust that it's going to always do the right thing. And so we need checks, we need the evals essentially, right, in place for that. There's a whole market spinning up around this now with like consultants that are helping organizations do that. Is this a part of what you're doing in your work or?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is, and eval is the new buzzword.
Yeah.
It, eval's purpose, or the evaluation of the response, like just
Yeah.
to like get to the root of what these things are and what they do, um, is to reduce risk on output.
Yeah.
And so whether or not it's like you're using, there's multiple ways that you could do this. There's like if you're using Claude, there's skills. There's if you're using any like the MCP enabled AI client, you could use MCPs for these things. Or if you're using just general traditional old school things, there's like various testing methods that you can leverage for this type of stuff. But this kind of goes without saying for us, like, because it feels like in the cascade of how to ensure that the output of AI is what the expectation should be, it's that first and foremost is context. Like, the most important thing with AI these days, even outside of design systems, is like knowing how to articulate. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's probably the most important thing. So understanding what it is you're trying to do, what's the most articulate way of saying it, and then feeding the AI what you think that it needs to do in order for it to do its best job.
Yeah.
And that could be as simple as like things where it could be a concept that just from a personal perspective. What I do is I take morning walks, and then I'll put ChatGPT on talk mode, and then I'll have my headphones in, and then I call it Ouijaing. I'll just like banter back and forth, and then I'll get, this is my scratch pad in the form of AI, weeds out the bad ideas, gives me a good set of ideas that I can work with. At that point is when I start like the actual development side of things, or like I'll start incorporating it into a tool set. But yeah, I lost track of the original question that I had a
Yeah, we were
pretty good
talking
answer.
evals, but yeah.
Yeah. So and then when we get to the point of having proper context, then everything else with the expectation of the output should be good. But then depending on the complexity and ask of the AI when you're working with it, then it's like it's either you can hand it off to evals to like do all these like sub agent checks, which there's a lot of stuff that we do depending on the types of products that we're working on. But then there's also like, if we in the context of design systems, we try to approach things like in a very Russian doll method, or very atomic, like
Yeah.
Brad, like a very atomic way. So the more we can uh, scaffold up the system by starting with, let's say, if we're building a brand new design system on the code side of things, starting with things like badges and indicators and avatars, things that don't have like a whole lot of composition or a whole lot of metadata involved with them, and then building that up, because as you're building that up, the AI that's embedded within that code base is gathering context.
Yeah.
So the less you need evals, but evals are important, because there is going to be a moment when you get to like larger architecture, like bigger structures, where like we have lots of custom agents, and this kind of goes into more of an AI uh, uh, deeper architecture discussion. But we have a lot of custom agents that we deploy on things that we think are going to be relatively complex bug fixing. It's like, okay, we've ran into a big issue with like WebSockets or something. And it's like,
Hmm.
okay, that sounds like a little bit of back of the front end stuff, or that's like a little bit of DevOpsy. So let's go ahead and deploy XYZ sub agents to help check the job of the one that's doing the main work in there.
Yeah.
And then most of the time I'll do Claude Code on verbose mode, so I can actually see like all the things that's going on there. And I'm one of those people that just like monitor it,
Yeah.
and then I always ask for like a full report when it's done too, because like
Yeah.
again, I want to know exactly what it's coming through. But yes, evals are very important. Like have your AI check your AI, and
Yeah.
then when your AI is checked, send it to another AI to
Yeah.
recheck your AI.
Yeah. And then have a human take a look, right?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
in the sense of like a pull request, yeah, like put some human eyes on it.
Yeah. This is great. Okay, so we hit on a lot of interesting topics, but the one that really resonated, I think, with folks was this shift away from sort of like prompting as prime to infrastructure winning over prompting. And so we got into a lot with this topic. So many folks jumped in, but like, how would you summarize that conversation in the deep dive?
Yeah. So infrastructure wins over. So this is the whole concept of your design system is already an API.
Hmm.
So all of the tooling, all of the functionality, it all exists when there. It all exists within that system. So, but like, how fine tuned is your API if your design system is that API?
Hmm.
So if we're saying that we want to do things and leverage AI for downstream, so product engineering, design, to token mapping, whatever it is, then your infrastructure is your prompt, because when the AI is doing its thing, when it's running an initialization, in it's doing a diagnostics, it's running through, it's absorbing all the information about the component or the Figma project or the variables tables to understand what it is to act on whatever the prompt is, then having that is 90% of it to me. Like, because without that, your prompt is a generic prompt, and then it's going to assume that it's going to figure it out. But then the results of that response is going to be underwhelming, and then what might lead to people blaming the AI, like, yeah, it's junk. But having a really tight knit, fine tuned design system that acts as that's your infrastructure. Your infrastructure equals context, and then once it has all that, you can you can create some pretty generic prompts, and and it'll make it all the way through. Uh, uh, what I like to do in a lot of my prompting is I'll send it to certain directories just to like say like the focus is this, or like if I need output in certain areas, I'll always ask it to put outputs. And then going back to eval, there is one product that I really want to that I don't know what I would do without, and it's called Serena, and it's Serena MCP. It's and also sequential thinking is another one that's amazing too. So it's like before you even get to the point of needing evaluations on anything, before you get responses, sequential thinking does an amazing job of doing AI human thinking, like almost going down. If you picture just like a web, and it's going through every single possible scenario, or if you're a Marvel fan, it's like you've seen Doctor Strange going through all the scenarios in the end game, like going to like, and there was the one, and that was the one. So that's basically like what it's doing is it's like webbing, like extending all its tentacles out to figure out every possible scenario until it arrives at that one like best practice way to do it.
Yeah.
And so like you can do a little like pre-eval going through that
Yeah,
method.
that's cool. There was a lot to unpack. I'd love to hear from you, just like sort of your kind of like closing thoughts. Like after having asked this question and sort of seeing the responses coming back from folks, like what do you think folks can go do tomorrow or next week that would actually help in their use of AI right now in the system space in particular?
Outside of just like grabbing a tool, I would say stay curious.
Mhm.
Like just like curiosity without feeling as though you're behind, and just from like just a personal part. not from like organizational job pressure. I like to dedicate like an hour a day just to try out new tools.
Yeah.
And I think it's fun. Like I get a dopamine rush out of it. Like it's like, is this going to be the one? Is this
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cheat code? Um, but I think staying curious about what's out there, and then it's just like anything where it's just like diet or exercise. Like if you want to get better at it and you want to see results at it and you really want to reap the benefits of the whatever it is, the bigger muscles or the smaller waist size, then you got to put in the reps. And I think having just a sense of curiosity to start with, to be able to be open to testing some of these methods or tools or products or platforms or reading the articles, it could be as simple as subscribing to a newsletter, and just being aware is step one. Step two, if you're in this space, if you're in the design systems community, like I think my gateway drug for the most simple setup would be Claude Desktop. Like just spin up simple download, or not even Claude Desktop, Claude Chat. Like just go to Claude, .ai/chat,
yeah,
and then pay the $10 or whichever model you're at. If you're a student,
yeah,
pay the subscription fee, so that way you get the feature set, and then install the Figma MCP.
yeah,
It's already right there for you. Like
yeah,
you can just go in and click the button, and then all you have to do is authenticate. So once you authenticate, and then you don't even have to have a design system of your own to work from. You can just go to the community in Figma,
yeah,
grab any design system.
right,
Like I recommend, I like GitHub Primer. I think it's a great one
yeah,
to test on, because GitHub Primer was AI ready before AI was even a thing when that design system was set up. Because I've
yeah,
ran that one through a gauntlet when we were doing a lot of our testing.
nice.
But Polaris is a great one. There's a couple of Shad CN ones out there.
Yep,
But yeah, just pluck one of those and then build something with it. You don't even need a code editor. Like you can just do it in the browser. You need one platform, a browser, and then you need a link to a component that exists in some other publicly accessible design system,
yeah,
and then watch it do its thing. And it's
yeah,
magic. It really is. It's one of those things where I don't know. Like after you do your first workout that is going to set up yourself for your long-term lifestyle change health journey, you feel really great after that exercise is done. It's like, wow, I did it. Now I'm amped and I'm ready. I'm gonna do it again. It's in a weird way, it's a similar feeling. You're like, wow, I
yeah,
just built that whole component set in like legit code. I
yeah,
may not completely understand the code. I can use this as a learning mechanism,
sure,
but I just did it. And then from then on out, I don't know, like there's lots of materials that you can
yeah,
go. This is a lot of the stuff that we cover too in the AI and design systems course. But it's once you've established that relationship, and then you get over that barrier to entry, because
yeah,
like a lot of people are just uncomfortable with doing that part. I think that's the easiest and most simplest way to start to like recognize, okay, I see how effective this might be,
yeah,
and how I could potentially start thinking about ways to use this within my own workflows.
yeah. Okay, one follow-up to that then.
Yeah.
So let's say somebody does that, and they also are on a design system team, and they have their own system. What would you say the most impactful change they could make would be to their system to make it more prepared?
Yeah, diagnostics. So, and you could do the same thing with the I would say if you're entry level and you don't want to overwhelm yourself, start with the official Figma MCP. And it's not just made to create developed components. It is made to understand what's under the hood in these components.
Hmm,
So you can do the same thing through Claude Chat, and you can send it the canonical link for the component set that you want to discuss, and then ask it questions.
yeah,
So like, how many components are in here? How many components are in this set? Tell me the properties of this component. Tell me the variables. Tell me the tokens. Are there any hard coded values in here? So like you're asking it for it to provide a report on how well defined this component is.
yeah,
And then so that's like, you're not actually editing anything yet, but you're getting a good rundown of the state of this component. And then
yeah,
as that product designer who may not be familiar with like the code side of things, they know that what they can do is be responsible for making those edits in that component. So they can shift on over to their Figma profile, their Figma project. They can, realign mapping the token values. They can, create the additional variants or states that are needed for what's for the developers.
Yeah.
And then that is one thing that they can take upon themselves. That is fully within their responsibility and realm to be able to do, to ensure that developers aren't going to come back and ask questions or don't ask questions, which is the bad part. It's
Right,
like when
right.
they just make assumptions and it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to assume this is going to be green when it should be blue.
That's so helpful, man. What a cool conversation. We're scheming already to figure out how to do a part 2. And I just want to say thanks again, TJ. It's so awesome to have you here sharing some of your experiences and doing so with such a great attitude. And I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, I sincerely appreciate you bringing me on. And yeah, anytime you want to talk more about this stuff, I'm here.
We'll do it. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Cheers.
All right. Yeah, thanks, everybody.